Chosen one, something shifted in the atmosphere around your life today, and heaven responded in a way you couldn't hear yet, but your spirit felt it. In the next 15 minutes, I'm going to reveal to you the exact moment you broke a pattern that hell was depending on, why God's laughter over you has already activated your breakthrough, and the 3 signs proving it's moving toward you right now, even if nothing looks different yet. I know you're exhausted. You've been praying the same prayers for months, maybe years. You've tried to stay strong while carrying burdens no one else can see. The weight of financial pressure, the ache of broken relationships, the silent battle with doubt that whispers, you're too old, too late, too broken for anything to change. But here's what the enemy didn't expect. You didn't quit. And that one small choice you made today, the one you thought didn't matter, just became the crack in the wall that heaven has been waiting for. This isn't coincidence. This is divine appointment. If you're hearing these words right now, type 9999 in the comments as a sacred confirmation that you receive what heaven is releasing over you. And subscribe to this channel, because what I'm about to share is only the beginning of the guidance heaven has assigned for your next season. Chosen one, your story is about to turn. Let's begin. The small thing you did today that heaven couldn't ignore. Chosen one, I need you to think back over your day today. Not the entire day, just one moment. Maybe it was this morning when you first opened your eyes. Maybe it was during lunch, or in the car, or right before you found this message. There was a moment, probably so small you almost didn't notice it, where you made a choice, a tiny shift, a quiet decision, and heaven saw it. Heaven recorded it, and everything in the spiritual realm responded. You might be thinking, but I didn't do anything special today. And that's exactly the point. Because what you did wasn't loud. It wasn't dramatic. It wasn't something you'd post on social media or tell your friends about. But it was real. It was sincere. And in the courts of heaven, sincerity weighs more than spectacle every single time. Let me tell you what I mean. His name was Robert, 62 years old, a retired engineer from a small town in Ohio. For 3 years after his wife passed, Robert lived in what he described as a fog. His kids had moved to different states, busy with their own lives. The phone calls became shorter. The visits stopped. Medical bills from his wife's final months had piled up. $47,000 in debt. At 62, with no clear way forward. Every morning for 8 months, Robert followed the same routine. Wake up, make coffee, turn on the news. Watch stories about wars, inflation, disasters. Then he'd sit in his chair and feel the weight settle deeper. He stopped opening his Bible. He stopped praying, except for desperate whispers and sleepless nights. I felt like God had forgotten about me, he told me later, like my story was over and I was just waiting for the credits to roll. But one Tuesday morning, something small happened. Robert woke up, walked to the kitchen, made his coffee, and reached for the TV remote like he always did. But his hand stopped. He doesn't even know why. And instead of turning on the news, he walked over to the shelf, pulled out his dusty Bible, and opened it. He didn't read anything profound, just a few verses in Psalms. He didn't feel lightning strike. He just sat there for 10 minutes. That was it. That was the moment. 6 weeks later, his old company called. They desperately needed someone with Robert's expertise. They offered him a consulting contract at more than double his retirement income. Within 4 months, Robert had paid off the medical debt. Within 6 months, his son called. "Dad, we're coming home for Thanksgiving, and we're staying the whole week." Robert said something I'll never forget. "That morning, I broke a pattern. For 8 months, I'd been feeding my mind fear. That one morning, I fed it hope instead. It wasn't the Bible that had magic. It was that I finally did something different. The pattern you broke without realizing. Now here's what makes this even more powerful. Chosen one. Scientists tell us that our brains run on what they call neural pathways, like trails worn into the forest floor from walking the same route over and over. They say it takes 21 days of repetition for a pattern to become automatic. Your brain literally creates grooves that make certain behaviors easier to repeat than to change. But here's what science can't explain. Why can one small decision break a pattern that's been running for 20 years? Not in 21 days, but instantly. Let me tell you about Linda, 58 years old, a nurse in Texas, divorced twice, 4 children, and not one of them was speaking to her when I first heard her story. For 20 years, Linda had followed the same pattern. Whenever one of her kids called, she would spend the first 5 minutes complaining about the past, about their fathers, about how hard she'd worked, about how ungrateful everyone was. 20 years of the same script. Her youngest daughter still called occasionally, out of obligation more than love. One evening, the phone rang. Linda answered. Her daughter said, "Hi, Mom." And Linda opened her mouth to start the usual complaints, but something made her stop. Instead, 3 words came out that surprised even her. "Are you okay, sweethearts?" 3 words. That's all. The first time in 20 years Linda asked instead of complained. Her daughter went quiet on the other end. Then she started crying. "Mom, I've been waiting to hear you ask me that for so long." That phone call became a bridge. 2 months later, all 4 of Linda's children came home for Thanksgiving, together, for the first time in 8 years. Do you see what happened? The enemy, the voice of bitterness, the spirit of offense, had built his entire strategy on Linda's predictability. He knew that when her kids called, she would push them away with complaints. He'd been counting on that pattern for 2 decades. But when Linda asked, "Are you okay?" When she broke the script, the enemy's strategy collapsed. It's like playing chess against a computer. The computer calculates every possible move based on patterns it's seen before. But the moment you make a move it hasn't predicted, the whole game changes. That's what you did today. Chosen one. You moved differently. And hell didn't see it coming. Here's what you need to understand. 1. You don't need strength to break a pattern. You just need one different choice. 2. Heaven isn't waiting for the perfect decision. Heaven is waiting for a sincere one. 3. The enemy relies on your predictability. Break it once, and you break his hold. So what was your pattern break today? Maybe you didn't check your phone the moment you woke up. Maybe you didn't respond to that email in anger. Maybe you didn't pour that 3rd glass of wine. Maybe you called someone you haven't spoken to in 5 years. Whatever it was, it mattered. Why God laughed, not what you think. Now let me tell you why heaven responded with laughter. And I don't mean laughter of mockery. I mean the laughter of victory. You know when a parent laughs? It's not when their child does everything perfectly. It's when the child falls down for the 10th time and gets back up for the 11th. That stumbling, determined effort makes a parent's heart explode with pride. That's the laughter. The laughter that says, "That's my child. Look at them trying again." Let me tell you about James, 67 years old, a veteran from California who'd been carrying PTSD for 40 years. James had tried to quit drinking 6 times. 6 failures. 6 times of swearing he'd never touch another bottle, only to find himself right back where he started. The 7th time was different. Not because James suddenly felt strong, but because he finally stopped pretending he was. He knelt down in his living room and said, "God, I'm weak. I can't do this. I don't have the strength. But I want to try one more time. Not because I think I can succeed, but because I'm tired of failing alone." That was the moment God laughed. Not because James finally had it all together, but because for the first time, James stopped trying to do it in his own strength. And 14 months later, James is still sober. Not because he got stronger, but because he finally admitted he was weak. Here's the difference. Attempts 1 through 6. I'm strong enough to change. Attempt 7. I'm not strong enough, but you are. The Apostle Paul understood this. He wrote, "When I am weak, then I am strong." That sounds like nonsense until you understand what he meant. God doesn't work through your perfection. He works through your surrender. When you stop relying on yourself and start leaning on him, that's when real power shows up. So, chosen one, let me ask you directly. Do you feel like what you did today was too small? Too weak? Too insignificant? Perfect. That's exactly what God needed. Because when you think something is too small to matter, that's when pride isn't blocking your view anymore. That's when you're finally in a position to receive what heaven has been trying to give you all along. Heaven laughed today, not because you're perfect, but because you're genuine. Not because you have it all figured out, but because you took one honest step. And that laughter, chosen one, that laughter has just activated a chain reaction in the spiritual realm. Something has shifted. Something has broken loose. Something is moving toward you right now that you cannot yet see. Which brings us to the most important question. What happens next? Because heaven has responded. The door has opened. But now you need to know how to walk through it. And more importantly, how not to accidentally slam it shut. Let's talk about that now. The breakthrough that's already moving toward you, and how not to block it. Chosen one, here's what most people don't understand about breakthrough. Hollywood has taught us that breakthrough looks like fireworks. Doors flying open, money falling from the sky, problems disappearing overnight. But real breakthrough? It starts quietly. It starts with signs so subtle that most people miss them completely. And right now, as you're listening to these words, I need you to pay attention. Because breakthrough isn't coming toward you. It's already here. It's already moving. The question is, are you seeing the signs? The 3 signs. Breakthrough is already in motion. Sign number 1. Peace in the middle of chaos. Notice I didn't say the chaos disappears. I said peace appears in the middle of it. Your circumstances might look exactly the same, but something inside you feels different. Margaret, a 54-year-old woman from Georgia, experienced this. Her husband had just lost his job. Her son was in the hospital. Bills were piling up. But one morning, she woke up and felt something she hadn't felt in months. Peace. Not because anything had changed, but because something inside her had shifted. 3 weeks later, her husband got a job offer that paid more than his previous position. The peace came first. The breakthrough followed. Sign number 2. Old enemies reaching out. Thomas was 61 when his brother sent him a text after 12 years of silence. 12 years since they'd fought over their parents' estate. The text was simple. I miss you. Thomas almost didn't respond, but something nudged him to reply. That text became reconciliation. And 6 months later, Thomas and his brother went into business together. Heaven doesn't just restore relationships for sentiment. Sometimes, the person who hurt you is connected to the door you need to walk through. Sign number 3. Unexpected clarity. Jennifer, 49, had been stuck in the same job for 15 years. Then one Tuesday afternoon, clarity hit her like lightning. She knew exactly what business to start, who to partner with, what her first 3 steps were. That clarity is spiritual GPS being activated. When it comes, don't second guess it. Move on it. Now stop and think. In the last 7 days, have you experienced any of these 3 signs? If yes, understand what's happening. Heaven has already responded. The breakthrough is in motion. But now we need to talk about the biggest danger, and it's not the enemy. It's you. The 4 ways you accidentally block your own breakthrough. Here's a hard truth, chosen one. 80% of breakthroughs get blocked not by Satan, but by the very people who prayed for them. We sabotage our own answers in ways we don't even realize. Block number 1, waiting for the big moment. So many people say, when I have $10,000, then I'll be generous. When my kids change, then I'll have peace. But breakthrough doesn't come before obedience. It comes after. Remember the widow of Zarephath? She had 1 handful of flour left. The prophet said, "Make me bread first." She gave before she had, and her flour didn't run out for 3 years. David was 59, living paycheck to paycheck. A homeless man asked him for money. David had $20 left, the only cash until Friday. But something whispered, "Give it." So he did. That Tuesday, David got a tax refund he'd forgotten about. $2,400. He gave 20. He received 2,400. Don't wait for the big moment to obey. Obey in the small moment, and the big moment will come. Block number 2, comparing your timeline to others. Susan was 63 when she was diagnosed with ovarian cancer. Her best friend had the same diagnosis. Her friend was healed in 6 months. Susan went through 3 years of treatment. And during those 3 years, Susan wrestled with one question. Why did God heal her and not me? But here's what Susan discovered. She started a blog documenting her journey. 47 women going through cancer found it. 12 of them came to faith in Christ because of Susan's testimony. Sometimes your breakthrough isn't what you asked for. It's what someone else needs through you. Stop comparing your chapter 7 to someone else's chapter 20. Your timeline is different, and heaven's plan for you is perfectly customized. Block number 3, refusing to let go of your rights. This one is hard. You have a right to be angry. You have a right to hold a grudge. You have a right to demand justice. But here's the truth. Breakthrough doesn't choose people with clenched fists. It chooses people with open hands. Michael was 56 when he was fired, unfairly. After 20 years of loyal service, they let him go with no real explanation. His lawyer said, "You have a case, 80% chance we win." Michael could have sued. He had every right. But in prayer one morning, he felt God whisper, "Let it go." That was the craziest decision of my life, Michael told me later. Everything in me wanted justice, but I chose peace instead. 4 months later, Michael got a call from a competitor. They'd been watching his work for years. They offered him a vice president position at 2.5 times his old salary. When Michael let go of what he had the right to hold on to, heaven released what he didn't deserve to receive. Chosen one, sometimes the thing you have a right to is the very thing blocking your blessing. Block number 4, stopping right before the finish line. You know what happens in a marathon? Most people who don't finish quit in the last 3 miles. Not the first 3, the last 3. They've already run 23 miles, but they stop at mile 24. Carol was 65 years old. She'd spent 40 years cleaning houses to raise 3 kids by herself. All three had graduated college. All three were successful. Carol thought, I've given enough. It's time to rest. At 65, she was ready to retire. But one morning, she felt a gentle tug in her spirit. One more year. God, I'm tired, she prayed. But she agreed. One more year. In that final year, Carol started cleaning for an elderly woman named Martha. Martha had no family. She was dying. And over the course of that year, Carol didn't just clean Martha's house. She sat with her, prayed with her, and in Martha's final days, led her to Christ. When Martha passed, Carol received a letter from Martha's lawyer. Martha had left Carol $150,000 in her will. If Carol had quit at 65, if she'd stopped when she felt she'd given enough, she would have missed the greatest harvest of her life. God's timeline isn't your timeline. Don't quit 1 mile before the miracle. Let me show you the difference. People who block breakthrough say, I'll obey when I have more. People who receive breakthrough say, I'll obey now. People who block breakthrough ask, why do they have what I don't? People who receive breakthrough say, my timing is different, but it's perfect. People who block breakthrough demand, I have a right to this. People who receive breakthrough choose, I choose peace over rights. People who block breakthrough think, I've given enough. People who receive breakthrough believe, there's 1 more mile. I'll finish. Your next 48 hours. The window is open. Now, chosen one, here's something I can't fully explain, but I've seen it happen too many times to ignore. When heaven laughs over someone, when breakthrough is activated, there's a window. A limited window of time where momentum is strongest. That window is usually 48 to 72 hours. It's not that God sets a deadline. It's that spiritual momentum works like a wave. The wave comes. You have to paddle right then to catch it. If you wait, the wave passes. So here are 3 specific actions for the next 48 hours. Action number 1. Write down the pattern you broke. Get a piece of paper. Write this. Today, I did X instead of Y. Put it somewhere you'll see it every morning. Why? Because the enemy will try to make you forget. He'll whisper, that moment didn't matter. Writing it down makes it real. It reminds you that heaven saw it. Action number 2. Do one thing you've been avoiding. One phone call you've been putting off. One apology you owe. One small financial step. Pay off $50 of debt. Open a savings account. Give $20 away. Patricia was 52 when she finally called her sister after 3 years of silence. That one call led to reconciliation. A year later, they started a business together. The thing you're avoiding might be the key to your next door. Action number 3. Speak it out loud. Before you go to sleep tonight, say these words out loud. I believe my breakthrough has already begun. I will not block it with doubt. I receive it by faith. This isn't magic, but it realigns your spirit with God's promise. It silences the voice of fear and amplifies the voice of faith. Now here's the warning. In the next 48 hours, expect 3 tests. Test number 1, the test of offense. Someone will irritate you. Someone will say something that triggers you. Don't take the bait. Offense is the enemy's favorite trap right before breakthrough. Test number 2, the test of doubt. Bad news will arrive. A bill, a rejection, a disappointment. Don't let it define you. Keep your eyes on what heaven said, not what circumstances show. Test number 3, the test of distraction. Something urgent will try to pull your focus. Stay on course. The enemy uses urgency to steal your attention from what's important. Let me tell you about George, 58 years old, He watched a message like this one. Within 48 hours, his boss suddenly criticized his work in front of the whole team. Normally, George would have exploded in anger, but this time, he stayed silent. He remembered the test of offense. 1 week later, that same boss offered George a promotion. The boss later admitted, "I was testing your maturity. I needed to see if you could handle pressure without losing your cool." If George had taken the bait, he would have lost the promotion. Chosen one, your breakthrough is not in the future. It's now. Not one day, but day one. And day one is today. Heaven has already laughed. The door has already opened. Now it's time for you to walk through it. Don't wait. Don't hesitate. Don't talk yourself out of it. The next 48 hours are sacred. This is your moment. This is your window. Step into it with faith and watch what heaven has already set in motion manifest right before your eyes. Chosen one, the breakthrough you've been praying for didn't start when you finished this video. It started the moment you pressed play. Heaven has already moved. Now it's your turn to walk in it. If this message stirred something in your spirit, subscribe to this channel right now. Because what God began today, He's going to continue speaking to you through the messages coming next. Type Amen in the comments if you received this word. Share this with one person who needs to hear it. Your story isn't over. Your best chapter is being written right now. Walk boldly, chosen one. Heaven is with you.